Hey there, welcome back to English Vibe. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we're about to have a real conversation today. No fluff, no shortcuts, just honest talk about learning English and why it feels so damn hard sometimes. So let me ask you something. Have you ever sat there, staring at an English sentence, feeling like your brain is about to explode? You know the words, you've studied the grammar, but when it's time to speak or write, everything just freezes? Yeah, I know that feeling. And if you're watching this video right now, chances are you know it too. But here's the thing I want you to understand before we go any further. That struggle, it doesn't mean you're not smart enough. It doesn't mean English isn't for you. It means you're human, and you're learning something incredibly complex. Today, I'm going to break down exactly why English feels impossible, and more importantly, I'm going to show you how to change your entire approach. Because the problem isn't you. The problem is how you've been taught to think about learning English. So stick with me for the next 15 minutes or so, and I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to see English in a completely different light. Let's start with the truth nobody wants to tell you. English is hard. Like, genuinely difficult. And anyone who tells you it's easy is either lying or they've forgotten what it was like to learn it. Think about it. English is words that sound the same but mean different things. We've got spelling that makes absolutely no sense. Why is knife spelled with a K if we don't even pronounce it? Why do we park in a driveway but drive on a parkway? The language is full of these weird contradictions that even native speakers mess up all the time. But here's where it gets interesting. The reason English feels hard isn't just because of the language itself. It's because of the way you've been approaching it. Let me explain what I mean. Most people try to learn English the same way they learn subjects in school. Memorize rules, practice exercises, pass tests. And sure, that works for math or science, but language? Language is different. Language is alive. It changes, it flows, it doesn't always follow the rules. And when you try to force it into this rigid academic box, you end up frustrated because real English doesn't work that way. Think about how you learned your first language. Did your parents sit you down with grammar books when you were 2 years old? Did they make you memorize verb conjugations? Of course not. You learned by listening, by trying to speak, by making mistakes, and by slowly figuring out the patterns. That's how language acquisition actually works. But somewhere along the way, we convinced ourselves that learning a second language has to be this painful, structured process. And that's where everything goes wrong. Now, I want you to imagine something with me for a second. Imagine you're trying to learn how to swim. You could read every book about swimming, watch every video, understand the physics of how your body moves through water. But until you actually get in the pool and start moving, you're not going to learn how to swim. English is the exact same way. You can know every grammar rule, memorize thousands of words, but until you start using the language, actually speaking it, and writing it and making mistakes with it, you're not really learning. You're just collecting information. So what's the solution? How do you actually get better at English without feeling like you're drowning? It starts with changing your mindset. Stop thinking of English as this mountain you have to climb and start thinking of it as a tool you're learning to use. When you pick up a hammer for the first time, you don't expect to build a house immediately, right? You start small. Maybe you hammer a few nails. Maybe you mess up and hit your thumb. But eventually, with practice, you get better. English is the same thing. Here's what I want you to do starting today. Stop trying to be perfect. Seriously, just stop. Perfectionism is the enemy of progress when it comes to language learning. Every time you hesitate to speak because you're afraid of making a mistake, you're robbing yourself of a learning opportunity. Native speakers make mistakes all the time. We use the wrong word. We mess up grammar. We forget what we were going to say mid-sentence. And you know what? Life goes on. Communication still happens. So give yourself permission to be messy with English. Let me tell you about something called comprehensible input. It's this concept from language learning research, and it basically says that you learn best when you're exposed to language that's just slightly above your current level. Not so easy that you're bored, but not so hard that you're completely lost. Think of it like lifting weights at the gym. If the weight is too light, you're not building muscle. If it's too heavy, you're going to hurt yourself. You need that sweet spot where it's challenging but doable. So how do you find that sweet spot with English? You consume content that interests you. And I'm not talking about boring textbook exercises. I'm talking about real content. If you love cooking, watch cooking shows in English. If you're into sports, follow English-speaking sports channels. If you like drama and gossip, watch reality TV in English. I know that sounds weird, but trust me, you're going to learn way more from watching something you actually care about than from forcing yourself through another grammar workbook. Here's another thing that nobody tells you. Your brain needs time to process language. It's not like downloading a file to your computer where it's just instantly there. When you learn a new word or phrase, your brain needs to encounter it multiple times in different contexts before it really sticks. This is why cramming doesn't work for language learning. You might remember something for a test, but 2 weeks later, it's gone. Real learning happens through repetition over time. And speaking of repetition, let's talk about something that's going to sound counterintuitive. You need to listen to and read the same things multiple times. I know, it sounds boring. But here's what happens. The first time you listen to something in English, you're catching maybe 30–40% of it. You're working hard just to understand the basic meaning. The second time, you catch more. You start noticing phrases and expressions you missed before. By the third or fourth time, you're not just understanding. You're starting to internalize the language. You're picking up on rhythm, on tone, on the natural flow of English. This is how you start thinking in English instead of translating in your head. Now let's address something that I know holds a lot of you back. The fear of speaking. You understand English pretty well when you read it or hear it, but when it comes time to actually open your mouth and speak, everything falls apart. Your mind goes blank, your confidence disappears, and you end up saying nothing at all. Sound familiar? This happens because there's a huge difference between passive knowledge and active use. Reading and listening are passive skills. Speaking and writing are active skills. And active skills require practice. But here's the problem. Most people don't practice speaking because they don't have anyone to practice with, or they're too embarrassed to make mistakes. So let me give you a solution that might sound weird but actually works. Talk to yourself. I'm serious. Narrate your day in English. When you're making breakfast, describe what you're doing out loud. When you're walking somewhere, talk about what you see. Have conversations with yourself in the shower. It sounds crazy, but it works because you're removing the pressure and judgment. You're building that muscle memory of forming sentences in English without worrying about what someone else thinks. And while we're on the topic of speaking, let's talk about pronunciation. This is where a lot of learners get stuck because they're trying to sound exactly like a native speaker, and they get frustrated when they can't. Here's the reality. You don't need to sound like you grew up in California or New York. You just need to be clear and understandable. There are millions of people around the world who speak English with an accent, and they communicate just fine. Your accent is part of who you are. Don't try to erase it. Just focus on being clear. That said, there are some pronunciation things that matter for clarity. Word stress, for example. In English, we stress certain syllables and words, and if you stress the wrong syllable, it can completely change the meaning or make the word unrecognizable. Like the difference between present, as in a gift, and present, as in to show something. The stress changes everything. So pay attention to where native speakers put the stress in words. Listen carefully and try to copy it. This is way more important than trying to perfect every single sound. Let me share something with you that changed my entire perspective on language learning. There's this idea called the growth mindset. and it basically means believing that your abilities can improve through effort and practice. A lot of people have a fixed mindset about English. They think, I'm just not good at languages, or I'm too old to learn, or my brain doesn't work that way. And when you believe those things, they become true because you stop trying. But if you shift to a growth mindset, if you tell yourself, I'm not good at this yet, but I can get better, everything changes. You start seeing mistakes as learning opportunities instead of failures. You start embracing challenges instead of avoiding them. Here's another critical thing. You need to set realistic expectations. A lot of people expect to become fluent in 6 months or a year, and when they don't, they give up. But fluency takes time. Real, comfortable fluency where you can express yourself naturally and understand everything. That can take years of consistent practice. And that's okay. This isn't a race. It's a journey. And every single day that you practice, even just a little bit, you're making progress, even if you can't see it yet. Let me give you a practical strategy that you can start using today. It's called shadowing. Here's how it works. You find a video or audio clip in English, something where you can see or hear the words clearly. Start playing it and repeat what you hear immediately after, trying to match the speed, the rhythm, the intonation, everything. You're basically becoming a shadow of what you're hearing. This technique is incredibly powerful because it trains your mouth muscles, it improves your pronunciation, and it helps you internalize the natural rhythm of English. Start with short clips, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, and gradually work your way up. Now, I want to address something that's probably on your mind. Grammar. Everyone stresses about grammar so much. And yes, grammar is important, but not in the way you think. You don't need to memorize every grammar rule and be able to explain why something is correct. What you need is to recognize patterns and know what sounds right. Native speakers get grammar right most of the time not because we know the rules, but because we've heard correct English so many times that incorrect English sounds wrong to us. That's the level you want to get to. And you get there through exposure, not through grammar drills. That said, there are some grammar concepts that really do help, especially for clarity. Things like verb tenses, because if you mess up your tenses, people might not understand if you're talking about the past, present, or future. Or word order, because English word order is pretty strict compared to a lot of other languages. But even with these things, you learn best by seeing them in context, not by memorizing rules out of a textbook. Let's talk about vocabulary for a minute. A lot of learners try to memorize huge lists of words, and then they get frustrated when they can't remember them or don't know how to use them. Here's a better way. Learn vocabulary in chunks, in phrases and expressions, not individual words. Because in real English, words don't exist in isolation. They exist in combinations. Like, you don't just learn the word make. You learn make a decision, make sense, make an effort. When you learn vocabulary this way, you're learning how English actually works. And here's a game changer. Keep a vocabulary notebook, but don't just write down words and definitions. Write down the full sentence where you found the word. Write down what it means in that context. Maybe write your own sentence using it. This creates connections in your brain that make the word actually stick. And then review it regularly. Not by staring at the page trying to memorize, but by reading through your examples and testing yourself on using them. Another thing I want you to start doing is thinking about the why behind what you're learning. When you come across a new phrase or expression, don't just accept it. Think about why English speakers say it that way. What's the logic behind it? Sometimes there isn't any. English is weird like that, but often there's a reason. And when you understand the reason, the language starts making more sense. You start seeing patterns instead of just random rules. Here's something that might surprise you. Making mistakes is actually one of the best things you can do for your learning. I know that sounds wrong, because we're taught that mistakes are bad. But in language learning, mistakes are data. Every time you make a mistake, if you notice it and correct it, you're reinforcing the right way to say something. Your brain is literally rewiring itself. So don't be afraid of mistakes. Seek them out. Try to say things you're not sure about. Push yourself beyond what's comfortable. That's where the real learning happens. Now, before we wrap up, I want to give you some final practical advice. First, consistency beats intensity every single time. It's better to practice English for 20 minutes every single day than to do a 3-hour session once a week. Your brain needs regular exposure to lock in the language. Second, mix up your learning. Don't just do one thing. Listen, read, speak, write, all of it. Each skill reinforces the others. Third, find a community. Whether that's online or in person, having other people who are learning English too, that accountability and support makes a huge difference. And finally, remember why you started learning English in the first place. Maybe it's for a job, maybe it's to travel, maybe it's to connect with people from around the world. Whatever your reason is, hold on to it. On the days when learning feels impossible, when you want to give up, remind yourself why it matters to you. That purpose, that motivation, that's what's going to carry you through the hard times. Look, I'm not going to lie to you and say that learning English is easy. It's not. It's challenging, it's frustrating, and there are going to be days when you feel like you're not making any progress at all. But here's what I want you to remember. Every person who speaks English fluently today, including native speakers, went through a process of learning. Nobody was born knowing how to communicate perfectly. Everyone struggled. Everyone made mistakes. Everyone had moments of doubt. The difference between people who succeed and people who give up is just persistence. It's showing up day after day, even when it's hard, and trusting that the work you're putting in is building something. So if English is hard for you right now, that's okay. It's supposed to be hard. That's how you know you're learning something worthwhile. Don't give up. Don't compare yourself to other people. Just focus on being a little bit better than you were yesterday. And if you do that consistently, I promise you, one day you're going to look back and be amazed at how far you've come. That's all I've got for you today. If this video helped you, do me a favor and hit that like button. Subscribe to English Vibe if you haven't already, because we're putting out content every week to help you on your English learning journey. Drop a comment below and let me know what your biggest struggle with English is. I read every single comment, and your feedback helps me make better videos for you. Until next time, keep practicing, keep pushing, and remember, you've got this. Peace.